What if I told you that the most dominant combat sports organization in the world started as something politicians tried to ban? This isn't just a story of fighters and battles. This is the raw, untamed chronicle of how a dangerous, no-holds-barred experiment defied every expectation, every critic, and every ban to explode into a global phenomenon. It's the origin story of the Ultimate Fighting Championship, a journey from human cockfighting to a multi-billion-dollar empire, revealing the very evolution of combat itself. Prepare to witness how chaos birthed a revolution. Before we continue with this intense journey into the UFC's past, I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. If you find this story as gripping as I do, I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe and help me out. Thank you very much in advance. Okay, let's continue. The year is 1993. The world of martial arts was a fractured landscape, each discipline claiming supremacy. Karate champions believed their striking was unbeatable. Boxers swore by their fists. Wrestlers knew the ground was their domain. But one man, a quiet yet formidable figure from a legendary fighting family, believed he held the ultimate answer. His name was Royce Gracie, and he was a master of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Royce had one mission, a singular, unwavering obsession: to prove beyond any shadow of a doubt that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, with its intricate techniques of grappling, joint locks, and chokes, could overcome any other martial art, regardless of the opponent's size, strength, or style. He dreamt of a tournament, a brutal proving ground where different fighting styles would clash without the limitations of traditional sport. He wasn't looking for a fair fight, he was looking for the truth. He found an unlikely ally in businessman Art Davie. Together, they envisioned an event so audacious, so raw, that it would force the combat sports world to confront its deepest assumptions. They called it the Ultimate Fighting Championship. On November 12, 1993, this radical vision materialized inside the McNichols Sports Arena in Denver, Colorado. UFC 1 was unlike anything the world had ever seen. The rules were almost non-existent. There were no weight divisions, no gloves, no judges to score points, and critically, no time limits. Fights ended only by knockout, submission, or corner stoppage. The concept was primal, almost gladiatorial. Pit one martial art against another, pure style versus pure style, until only one man was left standing. The lineup was a motley crew of combatants, each representing their discipline. There was a sumo wrestler, a karate black belt, a kickboxer, a savate expert, and a boxer. The stage was set for a spectacle of raw, unfiltered combat. And then came Royce Gracie, Rory's younger brother. A skinny, soft-spoken Brazilian, weighing a mere 170 pounds, Royce was hardly the imposing figure audiences expected from a champion. He stepped into the octagon representing the mysterious art of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, a style few in America had even heard of. The world watched, captivated and horrified, as Royce Gracie systematically dismantled opponent after opponent, many of whom dwarfed him in size and strength. His fights were a masterclass in leverage and technique. He didn't just win, he exposed the fatal flaws in the other martial arts' reliance on striking or singular techniques. He avoided their punches, took them to the ground, and meticulously applied chokes and joint locks, forcing them to tap out in submission. That night, Royce Gracie didn't just win a tournament, he shocked the world. He proved that technique, intelligence, and ground control could overcome brute force, and in doing so, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu conquered the combat sports landscape. More than that, the Ultimate Fighting Championship was born, not just as a tournament, but as the crucible for a new kind of fighting, a true martial arts revolution. The question of which martial art is truly the best had been asked, and in spectacular fashion, an answer began to emerge. An answer that was far more complex and profound than anyone could have imagined. The raw, unfiltered violence of UFC 1 ignited a firestorm. While fans of combat sports were mesmerized by the brutal honesty of the fights, the wider public and political establishment were appalled. This spectacle, devoid of almost any rules, was quickly labeled as barbaric, a throwback to a more savage time. U.S. Senator John McCain became the most vocal and powerful critic, famously and damningly describing the UFC as nothing more than human cockfighting. He launched a nationwide campaign to ban the sport, sending letters to governors in all 50 states, urging them to outlaw what he saw as a dangerous and immoral enterprise. His efforts were devastatingly effective. States across America began to prohibit the events, stripping the UFC of venues and legitimacy. Pay-per-view providers, bowing to political pressure and public outcry, dropped the fledgling organization from their offerings. The UFC, barely out of its infancy, found itself an outcast, pushed to the fringes, fighting for its very survival. It was on the verge of collapse, drowning under a wave of negative publicity and legislative bans. The purity of its original vision, the idea of unadulterated style-to-style competition, was threatening to be its undoing. To survive, the organization had to make a painful yet necessary compromise. The wild, unregulated chaos that had defined its origins had to be tamed. Slowly, reluctantly at first, rules began to be introduced, transforming the bare-knuckle brawls into something resembling a sport. Weight classes were implemented to prevent the drastic size mismatches that Royce Gracie had so skillfully exploited. Time limits were introduced to ensure fights didn't drag on indefinitely, leading to concerns about fighter safety and audience fatigue. Gloves became mandatory, primarily to protect the fighter's hands, but also slightly lessening the immediate impact of strikes. Perhaps most significantly, the unified rules of mixed martial arts began to take shape, governing everything from illegal strikes to the role of the referee. This painful adaptation marked a significant departure from the UFC's original anarchic philosophy. What started as a daring, anything-goes experiment designed to answer the primal question of martial arts supremacy was slowly, painstakingly becoming a regulated sport. It was a trade-off. Sacrifice some of the raw spectacle for a chance at legitimacy, and crucially, survival. This period was a dark and uncertain time for the UFC. They were losing money, scrambling for venues, and constantly battling against a perception that they were nothing more than a blood sport. Many believed the dream was dead, that the UFC was destined to be a forgotten footnote in the history of underground fighting. But just when it seemed the lights were about to go out for good, a critical turning point emerged from the most unlikely of places. The struggling, embattled organization, teetering on the brink of financial ruin, found a lifeline from a pair of unlikely saviors in 2001. The year 2001 marked the lowest ebb for the Ultimate Fighting Championship. After years of fighting bans, struggling for airtime, and hemorrhaging money, the company was nearly bankrupt. Its owner, Bob Merowitz, was desperate to offload the dying enterprise. The glorious vision of 1993 had devolved into a financial nightmare. But in this moment of crisis, two shrewd businessmen, casino executives Lorenzo Fertitta and Frank Fertitta III, saw not a dying brand, but an opportunity. They were captivated by the raw potential of mixed martial arts, recognizing that beneath the controversy lay a diamond in the rough. In a move that many considered sheer madness, they purchased the struggling company for a paltry $2 million. It was a colossal gamble, a Hail Mary pass on a sport that was still widely reviled and misunderstood. The Fertitta brothers brought in a former boxing promoter and childhood friend, a brash and energetic visionary named Dana White, to lead the charge as president. This trio, the Fertitta brothers with their business acumen and financial backing, and White with his promotional savvy and relentless drive, formed the core of a new era for the UFC. Their mission was clear, albeit monumental: transform the UFC from a public pariah into a legitimate mainstream sport. Their strategy was multi-pronged. First, they worked tirelessly to gain acceptance from athletic commissions across the United States. This meant embracing stricter rules, ensuring fighter safety, and presenting a professional image. They championed the implementation of the unified rules of mixed martial arts, which brought consistency and structure to the sport, making it understandable and less chaotic for new audiences. They moved away from the anything goes moniker and rebranded the UFC as a true sport, emphasizing the athleticism, skill, and discipline required from its fighters. Second, they focused intensely on marketing the personalities behind the punches. They understood that fans connect with stories, with heroes and villains, with compelling narratives that transcend mere competition. They started to build stars, showcasing their unique backgrounds, their struggles, and their triumphs, making the sport relatable and engaging. But the real seismic explosion that truly changed everything came in 2005. The Fertittas, still pouring millions into the company with little return, took another audacious risk. They launched a reality television show called The Ultimate Fighter. The premise was simple: Aspiring MMA fighters lived together, trained together, and competed against each other for a UFC contract. It was a massive gamble, costing them millions and broadcasting on a relatively unknown cable channel, Spike TV. For weeks, the show struggled to find an audience. The Fertittas were reportedly preparing to pull the plug, their $2 million gamble looking more and more like a catastrophic loss. Then came the finale of the first season. Two relatively unknown light heavyweights, Forrest Griffin and Stephan Bonnar, stepped into the octagon. What followed was a 3-round, bloody, back-and-forth war that instantly captivated everyone who saw it. It was a fight of pure heart, grit, and determination, showcasing the incredible drama and athleticism possible within the sport. This iconic battle, later inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame, is widely credited with saving the UFC. Suddenly, millions were watching. Viewership for The Ultimate Fighter skyrocketed. People who had never considered watching MMA were drawn in by the raw emotion and undeniable skill. The UFC was no longer an underground spectacle, it was mainstream. It was a phenomenon, and its meteoric rise had only just begun. The $2 million investment was finally starting to pay off, exponentially. With the success of The Ultimate Fighter and the newfound legitimacy, the UFC didn't just grow, it exploded onto the global stage. It transformed from a niche curiosity into a sports juggernaut. And at the heart of this transformation were the iconic fighters who graced its octagon. The UFC became a factory for legends, creating larger-than-life figures who transcended the sport itself. Fighters like Georges St-Pierre, the Canadian welterweight who exemplified martial arts discipline and technical perfection, becoming one of the most dominant champions of all time. His respectful demeanor outside the cage contrasted sharply with his clinical efficiency within it, earning him legions of fans worldwide. Then there was Anderson Silva, the Spider, a Brazilian virtuoso whose striking artistry and matrix-like evasions seemed to defy physics. His reign as middleweight champion was a highlight reel of spectacular knockouts and submissions, pushing the boundaries of what was thought possible in striking. John Jones, Bones, emerged as perhaps the most physically gifted fighter in the sport's history, a towering light heavyweight whose innovative techniques and intimidating presence made him seemingly unbeatable for years. And it wasn't just the men. Ronda Rousey shattered barriers, becoming the first female superstar in the UFC. Her ferocious judo throws, lightning-fast armbars, and captivating persona propelled women's MMA into the mainstream. She wasn't just a fighter, she was a cultural icon, appearing in movies and on magazine covers, showing the world that female combat sports could be just as, if not more, compelling than their male counterparts. These fighters were more than athletes. They were pioneers, pushing the boundaries of mixed martial arts and solidifying the UFC's place in the sports world. But then came a global superstar who didn't just push the sport, he blew it wide open. Conor McGregor. From the streets of Dublin, this charismatic Irishman burst onto the scene with a rare combination of devastating knockout power, an unparalleled ability to sell a fight with his sharp wit, and a flair for the dramatic that was unlike anything MMA had ever seen. McGregor didn't just fight, he created an event. His press conferences were must-watch television, his walkouts were theatrical spectacles, and his fights almost always ended in thunderous knockouts. He drew massive pay-per-view numbers, breaking records that previously seemed untouchable, not just in MMA, but across all combat sports. He brought a new level of swagger and showmanship that transcended the sport itself, captivating audiences who had never watched a fight in their lives. McGregor became a household name, and in doing so, he dragged the entire UFC, kicking and screaming, into unprecedented global superstardom. The culmination of this incredible ascent came in 2016. What started as a $2 million gamble by two casino executives had morphed into a global entertainment powerhouse. Endeavor Group Holdings, a Hollywood talent agency and media company, recognized the immense value and cultural impact of the UFC. They acquired the company for a staggering $4 billion. From the brink of bankruptcy to a $4 billion valuation in just 15 years, it was and remains one of the greatest business turnarounds in the history of professional sports. The UFC wasn't just a combat sports organization anymore, it was a cultural phenomenon, a financial titan, and a testament to the power of vision, adaptation, and superstar talent. Today, the Ultimate Fighting Championship is a truly global powerhouse, a far cry from the controversial underground spectacles of its early days. Its footprint stretches across continents, hosting major events in glittering arenas from the fight capital of Las Vegas to the opulent emirate of Abu Dhabi, from the historic venues of London to the vibrant cities of Sydney and beyond. The Octagon, once viewed with suspicion, is now a universally recognized symbol of elite athletic competition, drawing millions of viewers and packing stadiums around the world. The modern UFC roster showcases a new generation of champions, athletes who embody the continued evolution of the sport. We see the tactical brilliance of Islam Makhachev, a dominant lightweight champion whose grappling skills are almost unmatched. The relentless pressure and well-rounded game of Alexander Volkanovski, a featherweight king often lauded as one of the pound-for-pound best. The electrifying knockout power and unpredictable style of Sean O'Malley, who captures the imagination with his unique personality. And the surgical striking and cool confidence of Israel Adesanya, a middleweight wizard whose technical prowess is a joy to behold. These fighters and many others are not just carrying the torch, they are forging new paths, constantly refining and elevating what it means to be a mixed martial artist. The original question posed by Royce Gracie and Art Davie, which martial art is truly the best, has been definitively answered, but not in the way they initially expected. The answer isn't BJJ or boxing or wrestling. The modern UFC fighter is no longer a specialist. They are a complete martial artist, a hybrid warrior forged in the fires of constant innovation. To reach the pinnacle of the sport today, a fighter must possess an intricate blend of skills. The powerful striking of a boxer or kickboxer, the masterful takedowns and control of a wrestler, the intricate submissions and ground defense of a jiu-jitsu practitioner. But it doesn't stop there. They need the relentless cardio to maintain intensity for 5 rounds, the strategic brilliance of fight IQ to adapt mid-fight, and the mental fortitude to withstand immense pressure. The UFC didn't just crown one martial art as supreme. It proved that the ultimate fighter is one who seamlessly blends all the effective elements of combat into a single, devastatingly effective package. It's an ongoing, living experiment in human potential, continually pushing the boundaries of athleticism, skill, and strategy. From a banned spectacle, reviled by politicians and pushed to the fringes, to a multi-billion-dollar empire, a global sports and entertainment juggernaut. From a chaotic no-rules experiment to the most elite combat sports organization in the world, a showcase for the planet's most complete athletes. This isn't just the history of the UFC, it's the evolution of fighting itself, laid bare for the world to witness.